Welcome back, everybody. You know what? Today is going to be a fantastic day. I'm excited about today because Wayne Hempel has joined us today, head of technology at his current company. He was also head of technology and innovation where we worked together at one stage. And what an amazing colleague to have had and spent time with, and seeing technology in practice in such a wonderful way. Wayne, good morning. Welcome to the show.
No, thanks, Christo, for having me. I think it's long overdue. I've been looking forward to being on this podcast for quite some time. I know there's been quite a big quality of previous speakers in the podcast, but happy to be here and happy to share some of my experiences.
There's no problem with your quality. So yeah, Wayne we're going to talk so much about helping a younger version of ourselves, but civil engineer trained up, turned technology expert. I think your MBA that you finished recently was cum laude. But to our audience that don't know, and I'm going to ask Wayne to introduce himself, but to our audience, this is one of the few people I've met in my career that really understands customer service and bringing technology that helps and enables a business like you cannot believe. So when I met Wayne and I started working with him, I thought this is too good to be true. This guy is not real. It's impossible that you can be that focused on delivering something that people embrace and they want and they enjoy getting access to, and seeing data and the analytics that he put together with his team. But Wayne, I am very excited for our audience to get to know you a little bit better, learn from you, the mistakes and everything else that we have in our mining and processing business, or the resource sector. And thank you for being on the show and making the time, because you've been very, very busy. And I would like you to just tell our audience a little about who's this guy. Recently became a father, so congratulations again on that. As we discussed before, and there's not a lot of sleep going around still, and it's quite busy, but introduce yourself, please.
No, thanks, Christian. Thanks for that intro. Really appreciate it. And the pleasure of working with you as well. And again, customer service is one thing, but I think a willing employee and a willing fellow colleague is just as important as this journey. But yeah, so I'm Wayne Hempel. Currently, I'm the head of technology, innovation, and systems at Minipix. Minipix, for those that do not know, probably the world's largest operating and maintenance partner, specializing in various commodities from coal to platinum to zinc, lead, etc. And maybe just to give you a bit of a snapshot of my career thus far, Christo, like you alluded to, I started my career in civil engineering. Fortunately enough, it was civil engineering in the mining space. But essentially, my core responsibility was being a project engineer for large EPCM projects across Africa. I then pivoted into more of a technology and data analytics space. I've been fortunate to work for different mine owners. So most notably, probably Vedanta Zinc International, probably one of the largest zinc and lead producers in the world. I've also been very fortunate to work with you, Christo, at Trevali as well. Again, zinc and lead across North America, South America, and Africa. And my latest endeavor is at Minipix, which is more of a customer-centric focus approach. So we operate plants and maintain plants for clients. So a bit of a different approach, but highly complex, highly exciting types of environments, big scope, big portfolio, big commodities, but really, really exciting stuff.
Fantastic. So just for our audience, so we have an audience that really want to be the best they can be, and it's probably the top 10% of the industry that's listening to this podcast. So they're all about self-learning. And just for our audience, EPCM is engineering, procurement, construction, and management. And bringing back to civil engineering, Wayne, it's a lot of civil engineers. My one best friend from school, he's also a civil engineer. He's in the project management, call it stream of civil engineering work. And he's all about, EPCM work and project management, which is the traditional sort of civil engineering route or the specialist route. What made you pivot from that into technology? Where does this passion come from?
Yeah, Christo, I think there's a lot of terminologies floating around in the market. For us to be relevant in today's society, you have to be able to retrain and reskill yourself. So I would like to think I am a living, breathing example of how to do that and really pivot from a more of a traditional engineering field to something a bit more advanced. But to take you back in terms of how that happened and how it was made possible, I think it's one of the examples, the harder you try, the luckier you get. And that's ultimately our lineage. But maybe fast forward about 10 years ago, started in the mining space, again, hardcore civil engineering, especially on the tailing side, and a lot more on the mine infrastructure, construction and development space. But again, ultimately, my core function in that space was being a project engineer. And what that entails is essentially running these multidisciplinary type of projects, so bringing together electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, fellow civil engineers, all in one room, trying to work towards a bigger purpose and trying to achieve something great. So what I mean by that is, within a 2-year space, you leave a mining environment where you've put up mining infrastructure, you've built a mineral processing plant, you've built tailings facilities, etc. But that in itself is quite a complex process. A lot of stakeholders, different opinions, different disciplines. And the one skill set that I would like to think I got very specialized in is working with people towards a common goal day in, day out, with quite a lot of complexity and volatility.
Yes.
So started that quite successfully. And then I think around 2016, the investments in technology and mining became quite popular. It was probably better time in the mining space in terms of commodity prices, but there was a lot of investments and capital flowing around, a lot of projects being undertaken.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, also quite a lot of failures. I would say a lot of overpromising and under-delivering. But that's where I essentially saw the gap. So I had this unique skill set of running these complex, difficult projects. I saw fellow colleagues in the mining space really struggling to get these digital projects off the ground and really getting value from it. And I just raised my hand and said, look, I've got this unique skill set. Would you allow me the opportunity to apply the skill set in a technology space and working on these complex technology projects? I was given the opportunity. I really embraced that. And yeah, I wouldn't say I'm perfect in my approach, but I think bringing some structure and bringing a customer-centric approach to digital transformation projects really positioned me for success in the future. So right timing, I guess, as well. But really seeing that gap and really just putting your hand up. People can only say no, so you might as well ask.
I love that. I love the fact that, also for the younger version of ourselves, I did a similar thing when I moved from gold to platinum, and it was put your hand up, see the opportunity, and speak up and say, I would love to do this. And how difficult was it that they just say yes from the word go, or was there a bit of marketing on your end to get the convincing going?
Yeah, look, I think I had some great successes in my current role being a project engineer. So I would like to think that most of the projects that I completed were basically always under budget, always on time. And I think it was a breath of fresh air that someone a bit more experienced in running projects, raised their hand to do it. And to be honest, it was an obvious yes. And I think 2 weeks later, I started with my first project and just went from there. So definitely was not met with resistance. Again, I think it was such a relief that you can either be part of the problem or be part of the solution. And me raising my hand for that really set things going.
Yeah. And we did a lot of projects together as well, and we also had a great architect with Derek de Priya that we worked with at the time. But that was a similar experience for me, where you very customer focused on, finding solutions, working with the client, in your case now, in your current role with the client and helping them solve problems. But Wayne, still, I would like to get, is technology, you've taught yourself, programming language, Python and all the rest. Is this technology passion, has it always been there, or is it like sparked during this process of moving into project management for a technology suite of implementations?
Yeah, Christo, if I really had to try and understand where the passion for technology comes from, I would probably say that I've got a big passion for understanding the future and being part of that and really making a difference. And fortunately enough, I think technology is probably one of the biggest levers and the most obvious routes that we're going to take to get there. I mean, if you forecast 100 years in the future, there's a lot of potential scenarios that we can go to. But if I've got a role in shaping that future and what I do from a day-to-day perspective, I think that really drove my passion for technology. It's really not stagnating, being part of a bigger picture, and then ultimately helping building future society. So yeah, I think back to the original point, technology has always been a part of what I do, what I am. Even back in the civil engineering days, it wasn't that I was afraid for a computer or doing innovative things.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, just embracing that. And like I said, the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution is undeniably on its way. Might as well be part of that journey. And I think that's really where it stems from.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wayne, but why is the mining resource sector, mining, I wouldn't say oil and gas, but mining, why is it so far behind with, what the rest of the other industries are doing in the technology space? What's your view on that?
Chris, I think it's twofold. I think firstly, mining is a very old and traditional type of concept. Again, you speak about the telecoms and manufacturing. I mean, that's only been around for the last, call it 100, 150 years. If you take mining back, we're speaking thousands and thousands of years. So there's definitely a legacy aspect to it. But I must admit, there's definitely a complexity aspect to it. I think we greatly underappreciate how difficult it is doing what we do in the mining space. And maybe I can give you a very practical example, one that I recently used at a seminar as well. So for instance, let's look at a typical manufacturing concept. So let's take bakers that bake bread. If you look at their process flow, it's very much controlled. So from a raw ingredient perspective, you've got flour, you've got oil, you've got sugar, and predetermined quantities and predetermined qualities. Now that goes into a mixing process. Again, it's standardized. It mixes for a set frequency every time. Then you bake it for a certain period in a certain oven. And ultimately getting the final product at the end is relatively consistent. And that is quite easy to do. And I mean, for you to apply technology and analytics in that space, not that difficult. I mean, if you potentially going to half the amount of flour that you're going to get something bad at the end.
Yeah.
Now let's look at that same example. And like I said, assuming it's very robust and never changing parameters. So imagine I go and I randomly change the amount of yeast you add. I change the flour supplier. I decide to mix for half the time today, or I double the temperature on the oven. What you're going to get at the end is going to fluctuate quite drastically. And I think that summarizes mining. What comes into the mixing and the baking process is so volatile and so unknown is that it's almost impossible for us to successfully deploy advanced AI technologies and systems that try and predict and forecast these events. And again, that's why I really believe people have not actively avoided the mining space, but it is complex. It's quite difficult. It's very difficult to get value from it. But I do believe most of the other markets are becoming quite saturated. And if you really want to create a name for yourself, I think mining, and especially in the tech and data science space, is the way to go. It's, you're familiar with the concept of red ocean, blue ocean. I fundamentally believe that mining is a blue ocean if you are interested in technology and data science. And if you are willing and able, you can create a fantastic career for yourself in that space.
Wow. But Wayne, the mining industry has also been traditionally a very labor-intensive industry, creating a lot of jobs. And because of that industry, very unionized. And what do you say when, people say, well, technology is going to take our jobs away? How do we deal with that? I don't want to use it. I don't want to adopt.
Yeah, Chris, I think, that's a very controversial topic, but I'm happy to speak freely on the topic. I think it's twofold. So if you look at, with the adoption of technology, will it reduce the total amount of, employment in future? If you ask me that question, I would say no. I think, just looking at my current company, I can tell you that we are creating new roles by the day. We are heavily investing in the tech and data space. And the net quantity of people in our company has significantly grown. We have not reduced or cut into size. Doesn't matter how automated or effective that we have become. Going back to the other side of things, if you ask me, I am currently a miner and I am unable to change. I don't want to change. Is my job at risk with the advent of technology and analytics? 100% yes. I think if you are going to sit back and relax and not take a proactive approach to reskill yourself and be part of this journey, I think unfortunately you will be left behind. And I think that applies to anything in life. But I think it's here to stay. I don't think it will ever go away. You might as well, embrace it and create a better future for yourself.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because I was working with a client in this week, and one of the people that I spoke to, he said to me clearly, I'm I'm BC, I'm before computers. Don't talk to me about this stuff. And we were actually helping them also with the technology adoption as well, by the way. And I said to him, how old are you? And he told me, and I said, well, we are the same age. I think it's all about an attitude, about how you approach this. And you 100%, I must agree with you. I think it's you either embrace it and change and you have a future, or you become a dinosaur in that. And it doesn't mean I'm not saying that in a rude way, or just being derogatory in any way. Wayne, are you excited about data science and where that's going, and how AI is starting to play a role? And I'm asking that because lately I'm using ChatGPT a lot with a lot of mining problems that we have, and I'm testing the ground, and I'm actually having fun looking at ChatGPT and how that is giving answers to mining questions, and I think I'm excited about where this is going. What's your view on AI and machine learning and the next wave?
Yeah, no, Christo, I unfortunately have to say I'm excited, and I truly am. But yeah, so and again, I want to go back to that example of maybe the 2015s onwards. There was a big hype, big investment, a lot of failure, and I think unfortunately that did create quite a negative sentiment around what we do for a large period of time, and executives was too scared to touch anything in that space for quite a big portion of the call it companies over the last five years or so. I think the last 3 to 4 years has been quite interesting. I think out of the ruins and out of the failures has come these practical low-hanging fruit projects that's really taken off. It's added a lot of value. I mean, to your point, just the basics of bringing analytics to the people, bringing insights into the hands of everyone. That's not a very fundamental or
difficult,
it's not a vastly different concept. It's such a basic, quick win that you can implement. And I think once that foundation is set in and you apply that next level of intelligence, that's where it really becomes exciting. So I think advice maybe to some companies is don't try to go too big, don't try and change the world. Go for those low-hanging fruits and take it from there. And I think that's where we are now currently at Christo. We've, especially in Minipex, we've laid a proper foundation over the last 2.5 years. We've ticked most of the fundamental boxes. But we're at the point now where we're dabbling with that next level advanced type of analytics. How do we predict failures of assets? How do we proactively identify issues with control in your plant if your PID controllers are faulty? How do we give advisories to the control room operators that's unbiased, that they can use to do their day-to-day jobs? So there's a lot coming out of that. It's a very exciting time. And I can tell you now, especially if you look at the market, I think a lot of jobs opening up now in the mining space, especially in data science. So it's the right time to come in. I don't think it's mature yet, but it's really taking off in a great manner. And I mean, to your point, ChatGPT, what a fantastic tool. I've thought a lot about ChatGPT, and I often reflect of what it is and where it's going. And I can tell you now, you would think that if you are in data science or you're in software development, that your jobs are untouchable. I would say the same to you as a mining operator. If you think you can sit back and relax, you're definitely set to be disrupted. I mean, with ChatGPT, especially my team, with almost zero software development skills, are now developing their own solutions out of the box in record time. Again, we are augmenting our data scientists to such an extent that they are 200-300% more productive than they would have been. So again, stay on top of the game, but things are moving fast, but definitely moving in a very exciting manner. And I think the last thing to mention is I myself get disrupted to some senses. I mean, if you asked me 3 years ago, would AI have the ability to be creative? I would have said that's probably one of the biggest obstacles to overcome. And I think if you look at a similar ChatGPT product, which is DALL-E, which essentially can generate content and images and be creative, it's really exciting times. And I do not know where it's going to end, but watch the space.
Yeah. You cannot take away the human element, and our creativity will always be there. And my view on this is humans are by nature, creators if you're a person of faith or not, but, we create and we will never stop creating. We'll never stop dreaming. And, I don't see this as a threat at all. I think, what a wonderful future we have, because we will solve a lot of problems for the world that the world currently everybody has got this doomsday view of the world. I don't think we are, we have this doomsday. I think there's a lot of things that can be solved. But to the point of people, excuse me, the adoption, how do we get that right? Because you really got that right at Trevally during our time together. And it was, as you say, it was so quick that we were moving, and you started really great with, low-hanging fruit, as you explained. Let's just do quick dashboards, real-time information, and it's a quick fix. It's easy to do, but some people make it very complicated, and you did that phenomenally well. And I think that was part of the adoption success, was that you listened to the client, you did what the team wanted. You came actually with a couple of options. So do you like this? Do you like that? What do you think of this? And you were constantly moving. But so I'm already giving away that you have this recipe of success that you implemented. But any other things that, do you have a recipe of, to say, if we want to get this right, we want to get this adoption right and the people element of this technology sorted, is there a structure that you follow, a recipe that you follow?
Yeah, Christo, maybe to give a practical example, if you're planning a trip to the Kruger, you're not going to take the same vehicle that you drive day to day to work. You're potentially going to get a 4x4 with different tires. You're going to pack it differently. So my point is, depending on the destination and the environment that you find yourselves, you have to curtail your approach to match that. So I think often what we do quite badly in industry is we've got these blanket approaches to adoption. Change management is this massive buzzword. Yeah. But we create these playbooks and rule books, and we think that we can blanketly apply that to any company and have success. I think that's definitely a massive misstep. I mean, very well, every company's got a different culture, different type of people, different level of maturities, etc. So you have to curtail your adoption strategy really to what the company entails, the ethos and the type of people that they have there. So it's definitely not a blanket approach, step one. I mean, again, in the example that you mentioned, I think the biggest thing the MBA taught me was anything in life is essentially about selling and marketing, correct? I think engineers are especially bad at the marketing of their good work. So if you can listen to a customer, you can understand their pain points, and you can make it quite blatantly obvious what the benefits to them would be, but also explain to them, if you can get these benefits, but you'll have these potential pain points and struggles along the way. And you can convince them that the net benefit would be good, and you treat them with the utmost of respect and dedication. I think they are more than willing to adopt. I think often a lot of people, and especially the high-end chief technologies officers, etc., there's often a bit of an ego about them. They are leading the future of the company, and they are knowledgeable about everything, and whatever they touch will turn into gold. That's not really the case, correct? We ultimately work for the people on the ground, the operators on the ground, the plant managers, etc. And if you create that mentality that I'm there to help you at whatever expense, I think that really helps. And I think, Christo, I'm not sure what your experience was, but I think that's what we try to do when we work together. Yeah. I'm not a department on my own. I essentially work for you, and whatever you need, I will make that happen at any cost.
Yeah, that was certainly our experience. And geez, what a wonderful season in my life. I cannot help always referring back to that. It's like when we, and I don't want to be a when we always, but that when we was a wonderful period. But Wayne, where do you think this is going? What do you think is happening in the mining front? Where do you think this is going?
Yeah, Christo, I think we're at the point now, and it's quite a precarious tipping point. Maybe, let's understand the problem. Back in the day, let's take 100 years ago, mining was quite different what it is today. You had high grade, near surface ore, simplistic processes, unfortunately, very cheap labor. But it was a good time and quite easily to play in the mining space. I think fast forward maybe until about 5 to 10 years ago, things have changed quite drastically. It's low grade ore, very complex mining methodologies, quite expensive labor. And again, the political scenario has changed so much that it's becoming quite difficult. Now, I wouldn't say mining is not profitable today, correct? It still is. Yes. And the only reason it is because there's been incremental productivity improvements over the last, call it 50 to 100 years. And those improvements have come via the way of more skilled labor or mechanized types of mining. And we've really been able to match productivity to some extent to get to profitable operations today. Now, if you take today and you fast forward 50 years, I think skilled labor and mechanization can only take you that far. And we're at that pivot point that if you want to maintain the same levels of productivity now, you're going to have to really invest in technologies, analytics, advanced advisories, advanced sensors to take you to that next level. Otherwise, ultimately, we, the end consumers of these commodities, are going to pay. If the collective sum of mining productivity declines, ultimately the consumer will pay more expensive for commodities. If they can improve productivity and they can achieve these efficiencies, ultimately we will benefit, and that green future that we're all aspiring to will ultimately become a reality.
Sure. Wayne, I'm thinking about, despite all of this, and you said as engineers, and I think as data scientists, the people factor of understanding the client will actually, in a large extent, enable the adoption and the change as well, because it's only when you are able to sell the benefits and do it really well that you will have that different future of, still maintaining productivity and have a great future.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Do you focus, and how do you help your team to be people focused and client focused, as opposed to finding the algorithm, making the machine learning, making everything work, on the back end of the software, whatever, or the platform or the dashboard that you're building? How do you get your team to be people focused and teach that skill? Because that's the tricky bit.
Big difficult question, Christo. I think it's fundamentally about leadership and how we run our teams. You'll see, in my department especially, we've got these ethos or principles that we live by, and it would be customers always right, customers always first. What would the customer do, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got these guiding principles that we challenge ourselves with every time we're faced in quite a difficult, sticky scenario. But yeah, ultimately, it's about asking yourself, if you were in the client's shoes, would you buy what I'm selling? And often that's the way we try and change the mentality and the mindset. And again, like I said, the biggest thing in mining that's quite challenging is taking away egos, especially in very set companies where there's been people that's been working for 20 plus years. People often feel that they own a part of the company,
yes,
which is quite challenging. And I think we are exactly the opposite. We are just renting the space, but whatever we do is here to help and assist you as much as possible. So yeah, it's a challenge, Christo, but yeah, it's a mentality that we actively strive towards changing day in, day out. It's a continuous reminder that the customer is always right. And I mean, often what we do as well is we'll work on these projects or dashboards. And like you said, we'll build two examples. So it'd be the one that we as engineers would love, very complex, a lot of values, and then a very simplistic one. And, being a human, we walk in there and we've got a personal preference of what we think should work.
Yeah.
But once you pitch it to the client and they opt for something else and something a bit more basic and simplistic, it's important that we do not force that to them, correct? If they want this and they see value in what we're building, it might not be as advanced or fancy. That is fine. Let's go with that. And to a point, if you just look at basic reporting, I would argue that 10 adopted reports mean 10 times more than 100 unused reports, correct? So don't go too big, just focus on 10 practical, useful things, and it will go from there.
I agree with that. That's so fantastic. The one example I want to give about the people side of things is we, on a recent project that I've been working with, there's these engineering team that does the data science, and they have access to all the information, but they're not in any way close to the operators, the people that's doing the real job, where the rocket's broken or where the machines are being maintained. How do we shift people to do that? Is it, how do we get people to understand you can have this technology, but I'm still struggling with how do we get them to move? Do you have hard conversations? Have there been failures of your team? I mean, let's talk about helping a younger version of ourselves. It's not always, and people are people. And you work with a team, and I know it's a leadership thing, but how do you deal with people that just don't want to listen to the client or respond to the needs and just want to bring the technical solution to the front.
Yeah, Christo, I don't think there's inherently people that are so fundamentally against technology that they would not adopt it at any cost. I don't think those people really exist. I think if a customer has got doubts and concerns and adoption seems poor, I think it's very important to really get to the root cause of why and maybe relate to that person. So to your point of, people sitting in a nice corporate office having access to all the data and trying to, essentially build products for people on site to use. So what we do is exactly the opposite. So if we do have a challenging customer, and I can tell you now, we definitely do have a few, we've got the viewpoint that we would then put on our hard hats, put on our overalls, go spend a week on site, understand that person's day in, day out, understand how much free time he has, what he spends his time on, understand his challenges, understand the people that he works with, and really just resonate with these challenges. And then strategically pitch benefits and position that, you're spending 10 hours on this week. Imagine if I could take that away from you.
Yes.
You're spending this amount of time in meetings or doing manual types of tasks. This is what I can do for you. And I'm not just going to go back to my corporate office and push these onto your table. I will be back next week and I will practically sit in your morning meetings and I will go through it and I'll make sure that this gets adopted at any cost. So, you speak about failures. I don't think we believe in there's a failed project. I think there would be potential obstacles or failures along the way.
Okay.
But there's always a way to remediate that, and that's ultimately what we do as well. We don't write it off as a failure. We go back, we re-understand, we change our strategy, and make sure we get to some type of value add to that customer.
I love the fact that you say, they're not they're obstacles, they're not just failures, and take that learning approach. Also, I love the fact that when you started off, you mentioned the fact that you don't oversell this thing to a client. You say, we're going to have pain points. This is not going to be easy. There will be things that's going wrong. And you get that mindset going from the beginning that, we're going to work towards a solution, making your life easier and doing that. So you've answered some of how do you deal with failures? To a younger version of yourself, we all had lots of failures. And mistakes maybe, or major misses on, you've always delivered your projects, you're quite unique. But for the rest of our mere mortals that don't always have the the project management on budget, how do we deal with that, and what would your advice be?
Yeah, Christo, just to reiterate, I think we've had quite a lot of failures along the way. I think another ethos that we have, or a saying in our department, would be is we'll never blame you for failing, but we'll blame you for not asking for assistance. So that's really what the narrative that we run with. So we will fail, but ultimately let's rather fail together, learn from it and move on. So there's a lot around that concept. But yeah, in general, failures, someone starting out, yeah, you will have them. And I think a big challenge that we found was when you do fail, there's often a lack of accountability. So what we personally do as well, if something goes wrong, we are not shy to say, I take full ownership of what went wrong. We started this wrong. We had a different approach. I own up to my mistakes and I will make sure that I fix it and rectify it. And I can promise you, you can sit in front of a CEO or a CFO and any one of those conversations. If you truly and ultimately open up and admit to the failure and take full accountability, but commit to rectifying it, there's very few that will still keep on criticizing you. I think where the conflict arises often is where you don't take accountability for your failures, and there's a differences of opinion and things go nowhere. So yeah, Christo, I think you will fail starting off your career. It will not be plain sailing, but if you do fail, own up to it, and throughout the process, learn from it and ask for assistance. I think you'd be quite surprised how many people are willing to assist you in your journey if you just ask, Rick. So back to that initial point.
Yeah. Just get over it ourselves mostly.
That's about it. Yeah, I agree.
Wayne, this has been phenomenal. Anything else that you're passionate about to discuss today, or success stories or failures that you want to mention, or lessons learned?
Yeah, Christo, not too much. Like I said, I think we are in a peculiar position in the mining space. I think historically, again, there's been a lot of oversell and underdeliver. I think everyone's cutting that a little bit back, and I think people are getting back to the core of the operations and really focusing on that. So there's a lot of successes coming through. Yeah, I think the only thing I would maybe like to bring up to, that I'm passionate about is, and that's ultimately creating the next generation of people in the mining space. So I would definitely argue that mining as a whole has really become rather unpopular and rather unsexy. There's very few Gen Zs coming into the space, putting their hands up, more than willing to work in the mining space. So the big part of what I do and what our department does day to day is really trying to change the perception overall of mining and really positioning it as something else. I mean, we all can't deny the fact that whatever we use today is a function of mining. Your laptops, your phones, your car, electric vehicles, etc., etc. So if you just reposition your mind and just look at it from a different perspective, you could be the one leading this change to the next type of future that we're all striving towards. So please get into mining. It's a fascinating space to be, and you can make a key difference in what happens tomorrow. So people development and upskilling is really at the heart of what we're trying to achieve as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Wayne. Anything else? Any final words of wisdom apart from that?
Yeah, no, Chris, I think we've said quite a bit. Maybe I'll just leave it with the saying that I think what separates the successful companies of tomorrow and the ones that will lag is the ability to leverage insights and use it as a day-to-day decision-making process. I think you will be left behind if you don't start. So start today. It's no time like the present, but please start small and again, learn and ask assistance from the rest. But yeah, Chris, just thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it and looking forward to your future podcasts.
Thanks, Wayne. It has been absolute fantastic. People, I guess, can reach you at on LinkedIn and anything else. Have you got a Instagram or anything else how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is probably the most popular business platform out there, Chris. So please, happy to assist. And again, I think we are quite a small community of these professional people in the mining space. Reach out. I mean, let's jointly assist with what we do. I mean, I still reach out to a lot of other colleagues that have done different complex projects and had challenges. And again, it's all about a sharing and learning opportunity. So reach out, more than happy to assist in whatever.
Thank you, Wayne. That's it, everybody. We're going to be taking a short break and come back with a recap. Wayne, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for finally making the time to do this. It's been a couple of months. It's been a joy having you on the show. Thanks a lot.
No, thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. All the best.
Welcome back. I told you you're going to enjoy it and you're going to have fun today. Recap of today's takeaways for me. Learned a lot from Wayne Hempel here. First one, start with the small technology solutions and then grow from there. That's low-hanging fruit. Number 2, get into your boots and your overall and spend time understanding your client's needs. Number 3, even in data science, the world is rapidly changing. If you're a data scientist, you need to keep updated with the latest and greatest. Finally, within your organization, don't be afraid to raise your hand to tackle something big where somebody needs to go and solve that problem. Thanks for listening this week. Thanks for watching. Have fun and enjoy your mining. Cheers.